Trustee Hampton will now present our second candidate for the honorary degree.
I'm happy to be here this afternoon with my fellow trustee, Rosemary Thacker, to share this particularly joyful event with graduates, families, friends, and the university community. The Board of Trustees needed no persuasion to award an honorary doctorate to the woman it is now my privilege to introduce, a woman I have long admired greatly, Marian Wright Edelman. Mrs. Edelman, would you join us at the podium, please?
Wherever the major social issues of our day have been played out, you, Marian Wright Edelman, have been there. You are a passionate, active worker in the civil rights movement, starting in your college years. You participated in one of the first sit-ins, and that experience sent you to law school to gain the tools to further help the movement and to help the helpless. You grieved over the extreme poverty you saw in Mississippi, and in that distress, your life's work took shape. You moved Robert Kennedy, among others, to awareness of the plight of America's black families and children. You went on to broaden your view, encompassing all those who were in need. You determined to be a voice and an advocate, and you have been all of that and more. You have made the Children's Defense Fund a life-changing, powerful force in American society. You have worked public policy miracles on behalf of America's most vulnerable citizens, her children. You have said that you learned from your father that if you don't like the world is, change it. You just do it one step at a time, and you continue to do so. And as the Children's Defense Fund has grown, so have the range of its concerns, which now include homelessness, child abuse and child neglect, and teenage pregnancy. In your new book, The Measure of Our Success, which I might add is a bestseller, you describe American society as spiritually impoverished, morally lost, ethically confused, and dangerously short-sighted. But your own life suggests the cure: involvement with other lives, other causes. As you put it with characteristic directness, service to others is the rent you pay for living on this planet. Your rent, Marian Wright Edelman, is paid for several lifetimes. You exemplify the very highest values that we could hope to instill in our students or to live by ourselves. It is a joy to celebrate you publicly today. And by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees on behalf of the California State University, I hereby confer upon you, Marian Wright Edelman, our highest honor, the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters with all of the rights, honors, and opportunities which it imparts. Trustee Hampton and Trustee Thacker will assist in the investiture. Even if our commencement speaker had not been presented to you just now, she would need no introduction. It is with a great pleasure that I turn the podium over to one of the great women of our age, a woman I am proud to know as a friend, Marian Wright Edelman.
Thank you. It is a great honor to share this day of accomplishment, celebration, and transition with your trustees, administration, faculty, alumnus, with the families of today's graduates. But most importantly, I am delighted to be here with the wonderful class of 1993, surely the best class in the history of San Francisco State. Shortly before he died, My fellow South Carolinian Lee Atwater said the following in a moving essay in Life magazine. Wrote long before I was struck with cancer. I felt something stirring in American society. It was a sense among the people of the country, Democrats and Republicans alike, that something was missing from their lives, something crucial. I was trying to position the Republican Party to take advantage of it, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was. My illness helped me to see that what was missing in American society is what was missing in me. A little heart, a lot of brotherhood. The 80s, Atwater wrote, were about acquiring wealth, power, and prestige. I know I acquired more wealth, power, and prestige than most. But you can acquire all you want and still feel empty. What power wouldn't I trade for a little more time with my family? What price wouldn't I pay for an evening with friends? It took a deadly illness to bring me face to face with that truth, but it is a truth that the country, caught up in its ruthless ambitions and moral decay, can learn on my dime. I don't know, Atwater said, who will lead us through the 90s, but they must be made to speak to this spiritual vacuum at the heart of American society, this tumor of the soul. The older I get, the more I talk about my childhood, and I'm going to do it again today, but I hope as you leave San Francisco State that you will leave not asking how much can I get, but asking how much can I do without and share. I hope that you will go out into the world asking less, how can I find myself? More, how can I lose myself in serving and helping somebody else? When I was growing up, service was as much a part of my daily life as eating and sleeping and going to school. Caring black adults were buffers against the outside, segregated world that told me as a black girl I wasn't worth very much, but I didn't believe it because my parents said it wasn't so, my teachers and my preachers said it wasn't so. And so the childhood message I internalized was that as a child of God, I could look down on nobody else and nobody could look down on me. We couldn't play in public playgrounds or drink Coca-Colas at drugstore lunch counters, so my parents, my daddy was a Baptist minister, built a playground behind our church. Whenever they saw a need, they tried to respond. There were no black homes for the aged in South Carolina, so my parents began one across the street. And all of us children had to cook and clean and serve, and we sure didn't like it a whole lot at the time. But that's how we learned that it was our responsibility to take care of elderly family members and neighbors, and that everybody was our neighbor. Black church and community members were my watchful, extended parents. They reported on me when I did wrong, and they applauded when I did well. And they were very clear about what doing well meant. It meant helping somebody. It meant being active in the church. It meant achieving in school, and it meant reading. As a child, I figured out that the only time my daddy wouldn't give me a chore was when I was reading, so I read a lot. Our families and extended community family made children feel useful and important. And while life was often hard, as it has been for many of you today who are achieving, and resources were often scarce, we always knew who we were. and that the measure of our worth was inside our heads and hearts and not outside in personal possessions or ambition. We were taught that the world had a lot of problems, that black folk had an extra lot of problems, but that we could struggle and change them, that intellectual and material gifts brought the privilege and responsibility of sharing with others less fortunate. And it's not something you do. You don't wait to help somebody else until you've achieved or made that first billion or achieved all of your personal goals. I'm so grateful for these childhood legacies of a living faith reflected in daily service, the discipline of hard work, and a capacity to struggle in the face of adversity. Giving up was not part of the lexicon of my childhood elders. You got up every morning and you did what you had to do, and you got up every time you fell down, and you tried as many times as you had to until you got it done right. They had grit. They valued family life and tried to be and to expose us to good role models. And role models were of two kinds: those who had achieved in the outside world, like my namesake Marian Anderson. But the role models I remember most didn't have much formal education and they didn't have any money, but they taught us by the ordinary grace of their lives the message of Christ and Tolstoy and Gandhi and Martin King and Cesar Chavez and Dorothy Day, that the kingdom of God is within. They knew instinctively what Walker Percy wrote, and that is that you can get all A's and still flunk life. I was 14 the night my daddy died. He had holes in his shoes. But he had two children who had graduated from college, one in college, another in divinity school, and a vision that he was able to convey to me, even dying in an ambulance, that I, a young black girl, could do and be anything, that race and gender are shadows, and that character, self-discipline, and determination are the substance of life. I want to convey that same vision to you who are graduating today into an ethically polluted nation where instant sex without responsibility, instant gratification without effort, instant solutions without sacrifice, getting rather than giving, and hoarding rather than sharing are the two frequent signals of our mass media, popular culture, and political life, and we have got to change that in the 1990s. The standard for success for too many Americans has become personal greed rather than common good. The standard for striving and achievement has become getting by rather than making an extra effort or serving somebody else. Truth-telling and moral example have become devalued commodities. Nowhere is the paralysis of public and private conscience more evident than in the neglect and abandonment of millions of our shrinking pool of children whose futures will determine our nation's future and ability to lead in the new era more than any other single factor. Yet every 8 seconds of every school day, we let a child drop out. And these are not figures for black or brown or other people's children. These are all American children. Every 13 seconds as we sit here, one of our children is abused or neglected. Every 26 seconds, a child runs away from home. Every minute, one of our teenagers has a baby. Every 7 minutes, one of our children is arrested for a drug offense. Every half hour, one of our children is arrested for drunken driving. And every 53 minutes in the richest land on earth, an American child dies from poverty. It is disgraceful that we let children be the poorest Americans, and we've got to change that too in the 1990s. And I want to make a special plea today because of all the things that I'm spending a lot of time on with a lot of people is the fact that American children in 1993 are dying from measles. And one of the things we want to get accomplished, and that is included in the President's package, is a comprehensive immunization package so that we can get every American child who's under 2 immunized in this nation. It is a disgrace that the vaccine companies have had inflation that has been as high as 2,700% in some of our vaccines. Every dollar we invest in vaccines saves $10 on the other end, and what does it say about what we value when we permit profits to be more important than the lives and health of our children? Let's change that next month. The worst figure, however, is the fact that every 3 hours in this nation an American child is murdered, and the 25 children, the equivalent of a classroom full, are killed every 3 days from guns. And we have got to stop the violence that is destroying our nation and get gun control in this country. I hope each of us will ask ourselves whether our social and moral development has become so arrested that we can't stand up to the National Rifle Association even when the prey is helpless children. We have got to provide a voice to say, stop the killing. I think that we have lost our sense of what is important as a nation. Too many young people of all races and classes are growing up unable to handle life in hard places, without hope, and without steady compasses to navigate a world that is reinventing itself at an unpredictable pace, both technologically and politically. My generation learned that to accomplish anything, we had to get off the dime. Your generation must learn to get off the paradigm over and over and to be flexible, quick, and smart about it. But because I feel it is the responsibility of every adult to make sure that all of you young people hear what we have learned from the lessons of life, and because I feel so strongly that there are some basic values that hold us together as human beings and as Americans, and because I was worried about my own 3 sons having a little bit too much, I wrote a book, and I can't resist ever sharing advice with them or with you one last time. You can take it or leave it, but you can never say you didn't hear it again. Let me just say a few things that I think are important, and one lesson I want to share, and the country needs to understand it, and that is that there is no free lunch. Do not feel entitled to anything you don't sweat and struggle for. And I know many of you have sweat and struggled for this degree, and I congratulate you. But we must also help our nation understand that it's not entitled to world leadership based on the past or on what we say rather than how well we perform and meet changing world needs. Every African American, Latino, Asian American, and Native American graduate in this audience needs to remind themselves that you can never take anything for granted in America, particularly now as racial intolerance spreads again over our land. And you got to always keep in your mind what Frederick Douglass said. He said that men and women may not get all they pay for in this life, but you will surely pay for all you get. Don't ever forget that. For those of you who are white graduates in this audience who feel entitled to leadership By virtue of your skin, let me remind you that the world you face is already 2/3 non-white and poor, and that our nation is becoming a greater mosaic of diversity like California, that each of us is going to have to understand and respect if we're going to succeed. The second lesson I want to share is what used to run me crazy from my daddy, and that is to assign yourself. We'd come home from school and he'd ask us whether the teacher had given us any homework, and if we said no, he'd say, assign yourself some. In this democracy, which is not a spectator sport, we have got to stop blaming or asking why doesn't somebody do something about family breakdown or violence or poverty or the lack of jobs or the lack of good investment priorities. Assign yourself to hold yourselves and our political leaders accountable. And in the next month, if you are serious about the change of this nation's direction, you'd better assign yourselves to letting every one of your senators and congressmen hear from you that you support the investment package of the president. We've got to let Senator Dole understand that he was not elected president of the United States. If we want change, this is the best family and child investment package. If you want your children immunized, if you want early childhood education, if you want good jobs investment, and if you want to make sure that work pays, there's $28 billion in here to help poor working families keep more money in their pockets, then make your voice heard. No president, no Congress will do what we have to do without the American public making its voices heard. So assign yourselves to change America and do it quickly. The third lesson I want to just share is that I hope you will never work just for money. Money won't save your soul, and it won't build a decent family, and it won't help you sleep at night. We are the richest nation with the highest incarceration, drug addiction, and child poverty rates in the world. Don't ever confuse fame or wealth with character. And don't tolerate or condone moral corruption, whether it's found in high or low places, whatever its color or class. It is not okay to push or abuse drugs, even if every person in America is doing it. It is not okay to cheat or to lie, even if everybody you know does. Be honest, and demand that those who represent you be honest. And don't confuse morality with legality. Dr. King once noted that everything Hitler did in Nazi Germany was legal. Don't give anybody the proxy for your conscience. The fourth lesson, and I'm almost done, is not to be afraid of being criticized or of taking risk in your life. If you don't want to be anything, if you don't want to be criticized, don't say anything, don't do anything, and don't be anything. This is a time when we need leaders. This is also a time when we need every single one of you and every single American to take parenting and family life seriously. Having children is a lifetime commitment. Don't have them until you're emotionally and economically ready to stick with them for the rest of their lives. I also hope that your generation will struggle as I have struggled, and I hope that I'm reasonably successful to raise our sons to be fair to other people's daughters. I hope the young men in this audience will share and not just help with parenting responsibilities. Superwoman has collapsed of exhaustion. And I hope both fathers and mothers will stress family rituals and be moral examples for your children. If you cut corners, they will too. If you spend all of your money on yourself and tithe none of it for San Francisco State University or for the poor, they won't either. And if you tell or snicker at racial or gender jokes, they will not snuff out the poison we adults still have not had the courage to eliminate. Don't tell or laugh at or tolerate in your presence any jokes intended to demean rather than enhance another human being. Stare them down. Walk away from them. Through daily acts of moral consciousness, that is the way each of us will counter the proliferating voices of racial division that are gaining respectability over the land. Finally, never think that life is not worth living or that you cannot make a difference. Never give up. I don't care how hard it gets, and it will be very hard sometimes in this economy. An old proverb reminds that when you get to your wits' end, remember that that's where God lives. Also remember that you don't have to be a big dog to make a difference. I often talk about Sojourner Truth, who was an illiterate slave woman who couldn't stand slavery or second-class treatment of women. And my favorite story occurred one day when she was speaking out against slavery and she got heckled by someone in the audience who said, "Old slave woman, I don't care any more about your anti-slavery talk than for an old flea bite." And she snapped back at him and said, "That's all right, the Lord willing, I'm going to keep you scratching." Everybody can be a flea. Enough fleas biting strategically can change and move the biggest dog and move the biggest nation. And I have watched the Flea Corps for Children grow, and I hope it will grow with your voice and your votes today. And it is through a massive network of committed fleas that we together are going to make it un-American for any child to go hungry or homeless or without the basic safety that they deserve as Americans. Let's also, as we end this celebration today, pray for our own and for our nation's rediscovery of our best selves. Let us personally struggle and collectively struggle to help our children regain their moral traction in a world plagued by ethnic, religious, racial, and national strife. Let us reflect anew on why we are here on the earth, on what it means to be an American and a citizen of the world, and on all we have been given and have to give to leave California and our nation and our earth better because we are here. And let us affirm through our commitment the sanctity and promise of every child in a wayward world. And I want to end with a prayer to the God of all children, to the children of Somalia and Sarajevo, South Africa and South Carolina, the God of the children of Albania and Alabama, Bosnia and Boston, of Krakow and Cairo, Chicago and Croatia. Help us to love and respect and protect them all. O God of black and brown and white and albino children and those all mixed together, of children who are rich and poor and in between, of children who speak English and Spanish and Russian and Hmong and languages our ears cannot discern, help us to love and respect and protect them all. O God of the child prodigy and of the child prostitute, of the child of rapture and of the child of rape, of run or thrown away children who struggle every day without parent or place or friend or future, help us to love and respect and protect them all. O God of children who can walk and talk and hear and see and sing and play and jump and dance, and of children who wish they could but can't, of children who are loved and unloved, wanted and unwanted. Help every one of us here today to commit to loving and respecting and protecting them all. O God of beggar, beaten, abused, neglected, AIDS, drug, and hunger-ravaged children, of children who are emotionally and physically and mentally fragile, and of children who rebel and ridicule, torment, and taunt. Help us to love and respect and protect them all. And finally, God, of children of destiny and of despair, of war and of peace, of disfigured, diseased, and dying children, of children without hope, and of children with hope to share and to spare. Help each of us to commit in our personal and professional lives to respecting and protecting and loving them all. And if we do, we will see that no child is left behind in America, and if no child is left behind, America will not be left behind. Godspeed as you go out into the world.
Thank you, Dr. Edelman, for truly inspiring remarks. You have given our graduates today and everyone a renewed sense of our obligation to each other and to a greater society.